I never thought I'd be accused of trying to kill someone in my own backyard. Imagine standing there dripping wet, gasping for air after saving a woman's life only for her to point at you and scream that you pushed her in, that you tried to drown her. And the worst part, she wasn't just any neighbor. She was the president of our HOA, the woman who believed she owned not only our neighborhood but me too. When I first moved into Willow Creek Estates, I thought I'd found a nice little slice of suburban peace. The lawns were perfect, the sidewalks spotless, the houses painted in those matching neutral tones that scream community rules. At first I thought it was charming, but then I met her Karen Whitmore. She wasn't just a neighbor. She was the self-crowned queen of this neighborhood, always carrying herself with that smug expression that said, "I run this place." The trouble began with one simple request. Karen came over one afternoon, fake sweet smile plastered across her face, asking if she could use my pool for her son's birthday party. She said it was his big wish, that all he wanted was to swim with his friends. I'd just moved in, didn't want to start off on the wrong foot, so I said yes. I even went the extra mile. I gave her a spare key, told her to make herself at home since I wouldn't be around that day. She promised she'd take care of everything, leave the place exactly as she found it. When I came back later that evening, I expected to find balloons, wet towels, maybe some leftover cake plates in the yard. Instead, the place looked untouched, like no one had been there at all. No kids' laughter, no footprints by the pool, just silence. It felt wrong, like a stage after the actors had already gone home. That nagging feeling sent me straight to my CCTV footage, and what I saw nearly made my jaw hit the floor. No kids, no birthday party, just Karen lounging in the water sipping wine like she was on vacation at some private resort. She swam, she took selfies, she played music on her phone. It was like she had just discovered her own personal spa. I should have confronted her then, should have marched over and taken my key back that night. But I let it slide. I told myself maybe something came up. Maybe her son didn't feel well. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked. But deep down, I knew I had made a mistake. I had handed the devil the keys to my castle. Days passed. No key, no apology, no mention of the party. So I walked over to her house one sunny afternoon and asked politely if she could return the keys. She leaned against her doorway, coffee in hand, looking like she owned the block, and with this little smirk, she said she didn't know where she put them. Said she must have misplaced them during the birthday. She said it like she'd lost a pen, like my house keys were nothing. My stomach twisted. But instead of exploding, I nodded, forced a smile, and walked away. I didn't want to make enemies with the HOA president. Not in my first month living here. But that night I checked my cameras again, and there she was walking into my backyard like it was hers. Wide-brimmed hat, sunglasses, a drink in her hand, floating around like she was in a commercial for luxury living. That's when I called her. I told her I had footage, told her to return my keys immediately. And she laughed. This cold, sharp laugh that sent shivers down my spine. "You're imagining things," she said. "Maybe your camera glitched." That laugh lit a fire in me. From that day forward, I saved everything. Every video, every screenshot, every timestamp. If she wanted to play games, I was preparing for war. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, I came home one evening and saw wet footprints on my hallway rug. She hadn't just been in my yard, she had been inside my house. Talking to her clearly wasn't going to fix anything. I put up bright red warning signs. Private property, no trespassing. I nailed them to my fence, made it obvious. But the next morning I saw her again in my pool, like the signs were invisible. I tried to book a locksmith to change the locks, but he couldn't come for another week. Which meant I was stuck. I was living in a house where someone else, someone I didn't trust, had the keys. That's when doubt crept in. I'd sit in my living room at night, staring at the dark window, wondering if I was overreacting, wondering if I should just move. Maybe it was easier to give up than fight. After all, this was Karen, the HOA president. Everyone seemed scared of her. Who would back me up if I made her my enemy? But then I remembered those footprints in my hallway. The violation of knowing someone had walked into my home uninvited. That was the line. and I wasn't about to let her cross it again. Saturday morning I hatched a plan. I parked my car 2 streets over, left the lights off, and stayed hidden inside. I wanted to see what she'd do when she thought I was gone. And sure enough, an hour later, I heard the jingle of keys at my gate. She strolled in like royalty, swinging her purse, humming a tune. She kicked off her sandals, tossed her bag on one of my chairs, and slid into the pool with a sigh of contentment. I crouched behind my blinds, phone in hand, and called the cops. "She's trespassing right now," I whispered to dispatch. "I've got footage. Please send someone." I stayed quiet, recording every second, watching her float around on an inflatable lounger like it was her birthright. But then things went sideways. She slipped. I don't know how, maybe she lost her balance climbing out, but she hit the side of the pool with a sickening thud and started thrashing. Her screams pierced the air, her arms clawing for something, anything. For a moment I thought she might be faking another one of her manipulations. But the splashes, the choking gasps, this was real. Before I could think twice, I bolted out the door, sprinted across the deck, and dove into the water. The cold hit me like a punch, but I reached her, grabbed her arm, and hauled with everything I had. She kicked, scratched, almost dragged me under, but I pulled her toward the edge and shoved her up onto the concrete. And right then, red and blue lights flooded my backyard. The cops had arrived. I stood there, dripping wet, chest heaving, while Karen coughed and sputtered. Then in an instant she sat up, pointed a trembling finger at me, and shrieked, "He tried to kill me! He pushed me in! He tried to drown me in his pool." Her voice carried across fences, over rooftops. Neighbors peeked through blinds, leaning over railings. For a second I thought the cops might actually believe her. But I didn't panic. Instead I steadied my voice and said, "Officers, you're going to want to see this." I pulled up the CCTV app on my phone. First I showed them the footage of her unlocking my gate with the very keys she claimed she lost. Then clip after clip of her lounging in my pool, sipping drinks, tanning, acting like she owned the place. Finally I pulled up today's footage, her walking in, dropping her bag on my chair, diving into my pool. No struggle, no push, no assault, just her trespassing clear as day. The officers' expressions shifted. They turned toward Karen, who was still crying, her makeup smeared in black streaks down her face. When they asked how she got into my yard, she stammered, claimed I gave her permanent permission. But when I replayed the footage again, her lie shattered instantly. That's when I pressed charges: trespassing, unauthorized entry, false statements. The officers grabbed her arms, snapped the cuffs on, and began walking her to the cruiser. The Queen Bee of Willow Creek Estates, the almighty HOA president, was marched off in front of the entire neighborhood, hair plastered to her face, dripping wet, humiliated beyond repair. The court didn't waste time. With the evidence stacked against her, Karen was sentenced to 12 months in jail and ordered to pay $10,000 in restitution for damages, legal fees, and the stress she put me through. And just like that, her empire collapsed. The woman who thought she was untouchable was dragged away in handcuffs, her reign of terror over. My pool was mine again. My home was mine again. And if there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's simple. Never hand your house keys to the devil wearing a friendly smile.